Hi there, welcome. This is the Kelly's Astrology podcast, where you can find insight, guidance, and understanding through astrology. I'm Kelly, and I'll be your host. Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kelly's Astrology podcast. Today's show is going to be a 2-week forecast episode. So I'm going to share 2 astro events that are happening in the first 2 weeks of August. So I'll be looking at the time frame from August 3 through to August 17. I'm going to talk about one of my favorite aspects that is happening this August, and that is Sun sextile Jupiter. I'm also going to mention a classically challenging aspect that will form around the middle of August, and that aspect is Mars square Saturn. I'll talk you through what each aspect will mean, and I'm going to give you some tips about what to expect and when. So the 2 aspects I'm going to look at are Sun sextile Jupiter and Mars square Saturn. Before I do, I have a message for you if you are stuck trying to move from astrology student to astrology practitioner. Would you like to start seeing astrology clients but you don't know where to start? I can help. In my astrology group mentoring, I'll take you through all the do's and don'ts that have helped me establish my own successful astrology practice. In group mentoring, you'll get guidance and support on how to set up your astrology practice and to build your client base. I'll talk you through step-by-step how to price and promote your services. Along the way, you'll also get a chance to refine your chart interpretation and predictive skills. We'll also work through the best ways to talk with clients. You'll learn ultimately how to set yourself up for success in your own astrology practice. If you're ready to take action and move forward in your journey with astrology, I hope to see you in group mentoring. Pop over to kellysastrology.com to find out more or to sign up. We start on Saturday, August 31st. So with that little message out of the way, I did want to also share just a quick overview of August. So the first 2 weeks of August have fewer astro aspects than the second half of the month. There are a couple of important things happening in the first part of August, but most of the astro action in August is going to happen around August 18 and 19, which is near the full moon in Aquarius. And I'm going to say more on that in a future episode. If you want to mark your diary, the full moon is in Aquarius on Monday, August 19. So coming back to the first part of August, we have the next Mercury retrograde starting. So Mercury will start its retrograde journey on Monday, August 5th, and Mercury will actually spend most of August moving backwards in that reverse mode. Mercury will be retrograde from August 5th through to August 28th. So that's a clue that there may be some reviewing, reorganizing, and redoing happening this month. What we also have in the early part of August is an absolutely golden new moon in Leo, and that is happening on Sunday, August the 4th. With those quick mentions about a couple of extra things to keep in mind in this early part of August, let's dive into the featured aspects that I want to cover in today's show. So the first aspect is a really sparkling aspect, Sun in Leo, sextile Jupiter in Gemini. This is happening on Wednesday, August 7. The Sun will be at 15 Leo and Jupiter will be at 15 Gemini. You can expect confidence, opportunities, and a burst of optimistic energy as the Sun forms this absolutely expansive and uplifting sextile to Jupiter. This is a truly sparkling aspect. It's kind of shimmering with brilliance. It's very vibrant and very vital. Sun sextile Jupiter offers self-belief. It helps you kind of value who you are and what you have to offer. It also can bring a lot of energy and drive. We've got the Sun in really great condition in its home sign, Sun in Leo, being expanded and amplified by Jupiter and Gemini. So we've got this big, bright, uplifting energy. So you might be enthusiastic. You might feel motivation to move forward. You might also be tuning in to some hope for improvements. And in fact, Sun sextile Jupiter is a great aspect for making things better, making a part of your life more enjoyable, more exciting, more fulfilling, being more true to yourself. And along the way, because we've got, abundant Jupiter in the mix, you may be able to tap into opportunities, luck. You may be able to make great things happen for yourself and for those around you. The Sun sextile Jupiter also brings forward a very generous energy. And so here we can be the recipient of generosity. It can be someone could be generous towards you. The cosmos may shine, positively and warmly on you. Or you may be feeling very generous and very kind of abundant yourself, such that you are sharing encouragement or opportunities with others. So, whenever we get this kind of golden Jupiter energy, we have an opportunity to tap into that river of generosity, either as somebody who's giving and sharing or who is receiving. So, either way, we've got a lot of, sharing the good going around. The sun in aspect to Jupiter also has an adventurous quality, and that might see you seek out new experiences. You might be willing to try something new. It is great, of course, for all kinds of travel, adventure, and discovery. You might just generally be more outgoing. You might be more willing to take a risk. You might be open to meeting new people, saying yes to an opportunity that's outside your comfort zone. There is this sense of, if I want to grow, if I want to learn more about who I am, if I want to gain more wisdom about the essence of me, I'm going to have to step out from what I know. I'm going to have to get out of my familiar ways and try some things that are different or new. So, really stretching yourself or extending yourself outside your comfort zone is a great way to work with this Sun Jupiter energy. This Sun Jupiter sextile aspect can also bring new clarity around meaning or purpose, and that might help you make a really inspired choice. The Sun sextile Jupiter is a great aspect for saying yes to something. So, if you've been dreaming about a learning opportunity, a trip you want to take, a location that you want to visit, a work opportunity or a study opportunity, this is the kind of aspect that says share your dreams with others and be ready to kind of go for it, because the Sun sextile Jupiter helps make things happen. So, with that new clarity around meaning and purpose, you might be ready to make a decision. And it is a great day for making choices, saying yes. Sun sextile Jupiter is very helpful for making agreements. So, collaborations, alliances, coming together with others who share a similar vision or who are on a same learning journey to you. Because this Sun Jupiter aspect is a sextile, there's a little bit of that gentle energy here. And this is the kind of aspect where I really want to encourage you to be proactive. It's a very positive aspect. Like, there are many good things it can bring. But the idea with a sextile aspect is that you have to get in the mix. You have to take some action yourself. So you can get better results than expected, but you have to take a small action. You have to share something, ask for something, offer something. As the Sun sextiles Jupiter, it's as if the cosmos provides a lift, some luck, and a little daring energy. You've then got to mix in your own desires, your own actions to the astro vibe on that day. But doing so can really make things shine and can help you set yourself up for success. So, this is a very positive aspect. If you have to have an important meeting, if you're scheduling an important social, work, family event, I know it's a midweek day and that's not always flexible for people, but it is a great aspect that you might want to take advantage of. Even if you can't do your thing on this day, you could send your invitations or emails out about it. The Sun and Jupiter are also planets that are about things like wisdom, learning, divine knowledge. And so, Sun Jupiter aspects like this are excellent for all kinds of studies, whether you're in the study space as a student, you're soaking in wisdom, or whether you're in the study space as a teacher, a mentor, or facilitator. So, that is our kind of glorious golden Sun Jupiter aspect. And that's very much the first week of August. If we take a look now in the second week of August, this is when we've got one of those classically more frustrating or challenging aspects forming, and that is the square from Mars in Gemini to Saturn in Pisces. So we're turning our attention now to Friday, August 16, when Mars will square Saturn. Mars will be at 17 Gemini and Saturn is at 17 Pisces. I think so much about astrology is that it teaches us how to kind of manage, the sweet and the spicy, or the abundant and the restrained. And this first 2 weeks of August is a great example of that. We've got that glorious, abundant Jupiter Sun energy in the first week. And now we have Mars square Saturn, which is an aspect of much more kind of restraint, limits, working within restrictions. What we have here is an aspect that involves both of the classically malefic planets. There are some great and productive things we can do with Mars and Saturn, but it's ideal when we don't have Mars and Saturn working together. As a malefic planet, what that kind of means is that these are planets that can represent more troublesome experiences, or they can describe events or periods in our life that might be more extreme or more intense. So, if we've got that quality of intensity or things being extreme, we know that life is not balanced. We're not in a moderate period where we've got a little bit of this and a little bit of that. We might find ourselves really focused on one area that we're deeply focused on, and we're trying to kind of reconfigure, and it's taking all of our energy, all of our attention, and all of our effort. When Mars and Saturn square off, which they do, every few months, we have either a square or a conjunction or an opposition from Mars to Saturn. We've all had aspects like this before. It's not something that you need to get too concerned about, but it does flavor the energy of the middle of August, with this kind of frustration, delay, things being denied or minimized kind of vibe. When Mars and Saturn square off, it's a bit like a cosmic clash. There's sort of this pressured energy, there's this quality of resistance or restraint. We've got the drive of Mars, but it's bumping in to the restraint or the limits of Saturn. It's a little bit like being in the car and pressing the brake, which would be Saturn, at the same time as hitting the accelerator, which would be Mars. And you could appreciate that's not helpful. It's a lot of effort being expended, but not a lot of movement happening. One keyword or concept to think about with Mars square Saturn is restructuring. We're being asked to consolidate. We're being shown the areas where we are overextended, where we're going to have to reduce. We're going to have to scale back. We're going to have to make things simpler. We're going to have to do fewer things so that we can do the things we are doing to a better standard, essentially. There's like a quality control process that Saturn brings into the mix. Now, Mars in Gemini has this love of variety and has a lot of passions for a lot of different topics. So it may well be that the Mars in Gemini has scattered your energy and your focus, and now it's interacting with Saturn, and you're kind of gathering your energy and your attention back, and you are narrowing your areas of interest. And that will ultimately be to your benefit, but it means you're going to have to make some choices in the short term to stop doing some things or to do some things on a much slower timeline than you thought. So we are dealing with two kind of opposing principles here. Mars, which represents desire, immediacy, drive, energy, and that kind of willful pushing energy. And Mars is bumping into Saturn. Saturn, which is like this firm, solid quality, like a big rock, if you like. It's cautious, and it's also very thoughtful and intentional. Mars has a little bit of a reactive, impulsive quality, and Saturn has that more, I've researched this, I've thought it out, and this is what I've prioritized. So there's a lot of great energy or great reflections and adjustments that we can take from this aspect. But I think on the day around August 16, it's definitely going to feel a bit frustrating when you realize you're not going to be able to do as much as you'd like, or you're not going to be able to move as quickly as you thought you might. A quick technical note here is that with Mars square Saturn, even though I'm talking about Friday, August 16, because that's when the aspect comes to its exact and peak intensity, it's exact in terms of to the minute astrologically. peak intensity, we could easily say that this Mars square Saturn is August 16 plus or minus 2 days. Mars moves a little bit more slowly. And so we're going to get this quality of Mars square Saturn, a little bit of that heavier. Maybe there's some worry that you're working through, the choice making, necessary decisions that's going to linger. It's not as though we'll wake up on Saturday and it's all gone completely. It's going to need a couple of days for Mars to move fully out of that aspect with Saturn. So Mars square Saturn is an aspect that is going to slow things down. You're going to run into some limits. You're going to run out of time, out of energy, out of money, out of focus. You're going to have to delay some things that you thought you'd do right away. You may even realize that that delay was a good thing in hindsight because it stopped you doing something that you might have ultimately regretted. What you might feel is if you've come to a point in your process or into a situation where you're going to have to do some more research, or you're starting to realize the seriousness and the substantive nature of what you're involved in. Mars square Saturn is like, if you're really going to commit to this, you're going to have to follow through. And sometimes we get to that really important pivot point where we're like, I actually don't think I can follow through if I make that choice now. So there is some clarity and there is a reality check that Saturn is going to bring through this Mars square Saturn aspect. Saturn represents wisdom, but also caution. And ultimately, Saturn is interested in quality, not quantity. Mars in Gemini particularly is like, I want to do everything. I want to read all the books, take all the courses. I want to know all the things. And Saturn in Pisces is like, we want to focus on learning or knowing the things, the people, the bits of technology that are going to most enrich our experience. And that's probably not going to be everything. Because it's a square aspect, Mars square Saturn, there are choices that must be made. We're going to need to think about adjustments. Now, when we have a square aspect and we have Saturn in the mix, we're thinking about necessary choices, choices that aren't ideal, or when we're having to decide between two options, neither of which is perfect. What we want to think about is what is possible, what is reasonable given time constraints and limits on energy or money or resources. What is reasonable in the time frame we're discussing? And let's think about doing that. We're not trying to achieve everything. So the choices are, it's one or the other, it's now or it's later. Sometimes it's now or it's never, but often with Mars square Saturn, it's about, these things are going to require more of me than I thought. I need to space them out better. And that spacing or sequencing can be a really constructive way of working with Mars square Saturn. One other difference that is represented by Mars and Saturn that you might be dealing with in your life right now is that Mars is interested in short timelines or more immediate gratification, whereas Saturn has this longer time frame in mind. Saturn, from the perspective of Saturn, Saturn's prepared to wait for something better in the future or wait for results down the track. And so when we get Mars square Saturn, sometimes the choices that we're grappling with are around differing timelines. Somebody might need something urgently, and you're like, I just can't deliver that on that timeline. So what we're often having to decide between with Mars square Saturn is choices between things for now and things for later. Now, due to the hierarchy of the planets, the way planets sit in what we call the Chaldean or the Chaldean order, as well as the sign placement with Mars in Gemini and Saturn in Pisces, Pisces, of course, being the overcoming position to Mars in Gemini. Saturn is in what we call the dominating position in this aspect. And so ultimately, Mars is going to have to take its cues from Saturn. And that means for all of us, we're going to have to go slower. We're going to have to do less. We're going to have to downsize, simplify. We're going to have to reduce cost. We're going to have to reduce the cost of money, the cost of time, those kinds of things. So we're all kind of having to apply that cautious, wise, and willing to wait mode of Saturn. And that might mean that the desires of Mars are put on pause, either temporarily or maybe permanently. We might be delaying something, or we might be having to deny something. We might be having to say no, that we can't do that thing. We're having to tell ourselves we can't get involved in that other thing. I guess a really short way of summarizing this Mars square Saturn aspect is to think about short-term pain for long-term gain. It's like, I can't do this thing now, but the long-term reward or payoff is so worth it. That's Saturn's motivation. There's that classic study with the marshmallows, the idea of you can have one marshmallow now, or you can wait 10 minutes and then you can have two marshmallows. Saturn wants you to wait. Saturn wants you to have the better experience, even if it means you can't have it right now. So these are the two aspects that I think really define and influence the first part of August. And they are very, very different. We've got a very hopeful, abundant, kind of full of opportunity, luck, and a sense of possibility aspect. Of course, that is Sun sextile Jupiter around August 7. And then the other aspect definitely has some more tension in it. It might bring a simmering situation to a head. It's going to bring clarity. It just may be clarity that's like, oh, now we've got to adjust things and do things differently based on the realization that we're having. You might have to navigate a fear. Sometimes that's what we do with Mars square Saturn. We're having to kind of figure out, is this fear or is this survival strategy still necessary based on my current circumstances, or have I kind of outgrown it? Sometimes that's the most beautiful thing of a Mars square Saturn aspect, is acknowledging what you've outgrown and realizing how you can do things differently going forward. So you might also need to make that kind of tough choice, a choice that feels a bit pressured and not ideal. And of course, all of these features to do with tension and adjustments and simmering situations coming to a head and clarity, this is all to do with Mars square Saturn. I'm really curious to hear how these aspects are showing up for you. So do let me know in the comments below what's going on for you. Are you feeling more of Sun sextile Jupiter or more of Mars square Saturn? I would love to hear. Let me know in the comments below. And if you are ready to start seeing your own astrology clients and you want support and tips to help set yourself up for success, I hope to see you in group mentoring at the end of the month. Thanks for listening, everyone. I will be back to share more again next week. Until then, take care.